Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, a tale that combines history, rarity, mystery, and human curiosity surrounding a small copper-plated zinc coin that most people would simply overlook in their pockets, the 1985 1-cent coin, which has been reported to have a staggering valuation of $143 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and unusual characteristics that make it not only a collectible piece but also a priceless artifact in the world of rare coins, and in this presentation we will explore every aspect of this incredible coin, beginning with the context of its creation, the minting process of the mid-1980s, the specific mistakes that have been identified, the types of errors that might occur during striking, planchet preparation, or die usage, the stories from collectors who claim to have seen or held one, the speculation that surrounds its astronomical valuation, and the possibilities that make it so valuable in both monetary and historical terms, because when we're talking about a coin that was supposed to be worth just 1 cent, minted in the billions during a time when pennies were abundant and virtually taken for granted, and yet somehow a few examples slipped through the strict controls of the United States Mint, carrying defects so unique that they transformed them from common copper-colored discs into multi-million-dollar treasures, the conversation naturally becomes one of intrigue and amazement, so let us begin by remembering that in 1982 the United States Mint transitioned from using nearly pure copper planchets to copper-plated zinc planchets due to rising copper prices, and by 1985 the process was still relatively new, meaning mistakes in production were far more likely as the mint facilities were adjusting to new methods, machinery, and compositions, and when you consider that a 1-cent coin struck on the wrong planchet, such as a leftover copper one from the pre-1982 era or even on a dime or foreign coin planchet, could instantly become a collector's dream, it becomes clear why certain 1985 cents are rumored to be worth fortunes, and beyond composition errors there are striking errors such as double strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, rotated dies, cap die errors, and die clashes, all of which could occur under the heavy pressure and high-speed operations of minting facilities, and when any of these combine with the transition-era quirks of the mid-1980s, the result could be a coin so unusual that it cannot be replicated, and in the numismatic market rarity drives value, so when only one or two such coins exist they become priceless to advanced collectors who will bid astronomical sums to secure ownership. And the story of the 1985 1-cent coin valued at $143 million rests upon the belief that it represents either the rarest of all minting blunders or perhaps a coin that has an error layered upon another error, creating a once-in-history piece, and collectors talk about possibilities such as a coin struck on a bronze planchet left over from pre-1982, then double struck with rotated dies, and then preserved in gem condition without ever circulating, which would make it a one-of-a-kind marvel. And because coin values are determined not just by face value or metal content but by rarity, demand, and provenance, a coin like this skyrockets in price when major auction houses get involved, since competitive bidding among wealthy collectors can push values into the millions, and there are documented examples of rare Lincoln cents from other years fetching incredible prices, such as the 1943 bronze cent and the 1944 steel cent, both of which sold for over $1 million due to their rarity. And when you imagine a 1985 cent with multiple layers of errors and historical significance, it is easy to understand why such a piece could inspire rumors of a valuation as high as $143 million, because if only one coin exists and if it is certified authentic by leading grading services, it becomes not just a coin but a symbol of numismatic history, a piece that museums, private collectors, and even governments might covet. And so in telling this story we must also acknowledge that the world of rare coins often dances between fact and myth, with some valuations being speculative or exaggerated, but at the same time history has shown that collectors are willing to pay whatever it takes when the right coin comes along, and in the case of the 1985 cent the errors and mistakes believed to exist include planchet errors where coins were struck on blank discs intended for nickels, dimes, or even foreign currency, die errors where mismatched dies from different denominations may have been used accidentally, striking errors where double impressions created dramatic doubled images of Lincoln or the reverse design, and even environmental anomalies where unusual toning or chemical changes gave the coin a unique appearance that could not be replicated, and we must also consider the possibility that some 1985 cents were struck with experimental alloys during testing phases, as the U.S. Mint has occasionally experimented with alternative metals to reduce costs, meaning that a test strike accidentally released into circulation could be worth millions, and as we explore these possibilities we see how the story of a 1-cent coin can stretch into the hundreds of millions, capturing imaginations worldwide, and for collectors the thrill is not just in owning a piece of metal but in owning a fragment of history, a symbol of human error and chance that can never be repeated, and this is why people dedicate their lives to searching through jars of change, bank rolls, and old collections, hoping to stumble upon the next great discovery. And while most 1985 cents are common and worth just face value, the rumors and documented cases of rare errors keep the dream alive, making every penny a potential ticket to fortune. And as we go further into this story, it is essential to note that auction records, collector forums, and professional grading services all play roles in confirming and validating these valuations, and when a coin is authenticated as a genuine mint error, encapsulated, and graded at high quality, its value multiplies. So imagine a 1985 cent with a dramatic error graded at MS68 or higher. That coin would be nearly flawless, a true gem, and paired with its rarity it could indeed achieve valuations that seem unbelievable to the casual observer. And ultimately the tale of the 1985 1-cent coin worth $143 million reminds us that in the world of numismatics nothing is impossible. Mistakes that slip past mint inspectors can turn into treasures. The smallest coin can become the most valuable, and every collector dreams of finding that one piece that will change their life forever. So as we close this exploration, remember that the 1985 cent is more than just a coin. It is a story of errors, mistakes, and possibilities, and it represents the magic of collecting, where the ordinary can become extraordinary and where the value of history, rarity, and human curiosity combine to create something truly priceless. And if you have enjoyed this deep dive into the mystery and legend of the 1985 1-cent coin valued at $143 million, make sure to stay connected, keep searching your change, and never underestimate the power of small discoveries, because you never know what treasures might be hiding in plain sight. And with that, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating stories about coins, history, and the secrets they hold. Next, 2015 Lincoln Penny. Today's deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where small details can turn an ordinary piece of pocket change into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And in this episode we will unravel the story of the 2015 1-cent coin, a coin that normally seems so common and insignificant in our daily lives yet has become the subject of amazement and obsession among collectors, historians, and treasure seekers because of its errors, its mistakes, and the possibilities that surround its production. A coin that has been valued at a staggering $6 million, a number that seems almost unimaginable for a denomination that was meant to be worth only a fraction of a dollar. And yet when you start to peel back the layers of minting history, production quirks, human error, and the unpredictable outcomes of high-speed coin presses, you begin to understand how this could be possible, and why people around the world are constantly on the lookout for these elusive pieces that combine rarity, historical intrigue, and undeniable financial worth. So let's begin this journey by exploring the basics of how such a coin came into existence, the specific year of 2015, the minting facilities that produced billions of pennies during that time, and the way in which a small percentage of those could have left the presses with errors so significant that their market value was propelled into the millions, starting with the reality that every coin undergoes a complex journey from design to die creation to striking and distribution, and any step along that journey can produce anomalies. So when we talk about errors in the 2015 1-cent coin, we are delving into the entire spectrum of minting mishaps, including double die obverse errors where the design elements on Lincoln's portrait show doubled features around the eyes, lips, or lettering, creating a ghost-like effect that collectors prize, off-center strikes where the coin is not properly aligned with the dies, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted dramatically, which immediately sets it apart from standard issues, planchet errors where the blank copper-coated zinc disc that was supposed to become a cent is flawed, clipped, or even replaced by a planchet intended for another denomination, leading to rare transitional pieces, as well as broad strikes and partial collars that distort the rim of the coin and give it an abnormal shape that proves it was never intended for circulation in such form. And when one considers that millions of coins were struck in 2015, it may seem that errors should be abundant, but in reality the quality control mechanisms of the United States Mint catch the vast majority of them, meaning only a handful slip through, making those that do not only noticeable but also highly coveted by collectors who know that rarity and condition are the two central pillars of coin value. So if we imagine a 2015 penny with multiple errors, perhaps a double die obverse, combined with an off-metal strike where the coin was struck on a dime planchet, suddenly the piece transforms from a mundane cent into a unique artifact, essentially one of one, and uniqueness in numismatics equates to extraordinary financial value, but the fascination does not stop there because another key factor is provenance and discovery stories, where collectors, often unknowingly, stumble upon these coins in pocket change, estate sales, or old collections, and the narrative of finding something so valuable in such an ordinary place only fuels the mystique and enhances its allure, pushing auction houses and private buyers to compete fiercely, driving the price higher until it reaches heights like the reported $6 million valuation. And while skeptics might wonder if such valuations are exaggerated, historical precedent proves otherwise because coins like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, or the 2000 Cheerios dollar have shown how minting errors and quirks can break price records and redefine the landscape of what people are willing to pay for a small metallic disc. So the 2015 1 cent at $6 million becomes not just believable but almost expected in the lineage of American coin rarities. And when we zoom in on the actual physical traits of a multi-million-dollar 2015 penny, we find that the sharpness of its strike, the preservation of its surface without circulation wear, and the certification by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC all add layers of credibility and value, because collectors do not just want a coin with an error, they want it authenticated, encapsulated, and universally recognized as genuine, which guarantees that when the hammer falls at auction the buyer is securing not just a piece of metal but a verified artifact of monetary history, and this verification process often reveals micro-details invisible to the naked eye, such as die cracks, cuds, misaligned dies, or improper alloy mixes that further distinguish the coin from its peers, each small imperfection stacking upon the last until the collective rarity is undeniable. Yet beyond the technical aspects there is also the cultural and emotional dimension, because coins like the 2015 1 cent with multi-million-dollar value ignite dreams and inspire people to search their change jars, to look twice at every penny, to question the assumption that value is fixed and static, and this democratizes treasure hunting in a way that no other collectible does, for anyone, anywhere could unknowingly hold a fortune in their palm, and that possibility is what sustains the excitement and gives the coin its mythic status, making it more than metal but a story, a hope, a reminder of chance and luck. And if we consider the economics behind such a valuation, we see that scarcity, desirability, and auction dynamics converge, for scarcity is guaranteed by the rarity of the error, desirability is amplified by collector passion and historical resonance, and auction dynamics drive prices into realms that may seem irrational but are fueled by competitive pride and investment foresight, because the buyer of a $6 million penny does not simply purchase a coin, they purchase legacy, prestige, and the promise that future generations will look at that coin as an artifact of unparalleled significance, which means that even at that valuation it could be seen as a bargain by those who understand that the art world, the collectible car world, and the rare stamp market have all witnessed single items surpass tens of millions in value. So why should coins, with their blend of history, artistry, and tangible currency, not command similar figures? And thus when one breaks down the reasons, it becomes clear that the 2015 1 cent coin with its errors and mistakes embodies the perfect storm of factors: technical anomaly, rarity, condition, provenance, collector competition, cultural resonance, and market precedent, making it not only worth $6 million, but possibly even more in the years to come. And to fully appreciate this, we can imagine the hypothetical stories of different error types in that year, like a coin struck with a rotated die so that Lincoln's portrait faces at an odd tilt relative to the reverse, or a coin struck on a foreign planchet that somehow made its way into the mint's inventory, or a mule error where the obverse of the cent was mistakenly paired with a reverse meant for another coin. And these possibilities, however rare, are not outside the realm of reality for the minting process, and each one would exponentially increase the coin's appeal. So collectors pore over every 2015 penny they encounter with magnifying glasses, microscopes, and reference books, hoping to be the one who uncovers the next multi-million-dollar gem. Because history has shown time and again that patience and attention to detail can literally pay off in life-changing ways. And so as we reflect on the 2015 1 cent valued at $6 million, it stands not merely as a coin but as a beacon for all who dream of fortune hiding in plain sight, a testament to the unpredictable beauty of human error, and a celebration of the boundless curiosity that drives collectors. And as we close this exploration, I invite you to imagine the power of such a discovery, the joy of holding a $6 million penny in your hand, and the wonder of knowing that sometimes the smallest objects carry the greatest stories. So keep your eyes open, your change jars ready, and your curiosity alive, because the next extraordinary find could be waiting for you in the most ordinary of places. And with that thought, we wrap up today's journey into the 2015 1-cent coin, an object born of error but immortalized by value, reminding us that history, chance, and passion can transform a single cent into a treasure beyond imagination. And if you've enjoyed this exploration into rare coins and the hidden fortunes they represent, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for future episodes where we continue to uncover the stories behind the world's most fascinating collectibles. Next, 1989 1-cent coin. Today, as we embark on a fascinating deep dive into the extraordinary story of a tiny piece of American currency that has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, the 1989 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would casually toss into their pocket change or dismiss as practically worthless, but which in certain rare forms has been valued at an astonishing $14 million because of the unique errors and mistakes that occurred during its minting, transforming this humble penny into one of the most coveted pieces of modern numismatics. And in this journey together we will examine every detail that explains how a coin originally struck to serve as a simple part of everyday commerce could suddenly emerge as a priceless rarity, from the background of the minting process in the late 1980s, to the types of errors that could appear, to the way rarity and demand combine to drive astronomical value, and to the myths and documented evidence that surround coins like these, because while most 1989 1-cent coins are entirely common and worth only a fraction of their face value due to inflation, there exist a handful with striking mistakes so dramatic that they can command life-changing sums at auction. And in order to fully appreciate why this coin has been rumored and reported to sell for as high as $14 million, we must first understand the minting conditions of the late 1980s, for in 1982 the United States Mint changed the composition of the cent from solid copper to copper-plated zinc, a change that not only altered the appearance and weight of the coin but also introduced new possibilities for errors, since striking zinc with a thin copper plating posed its own technical challenges, and by 1989 the mint had gained years of experience, but mistakes were still possible given the sheer scale of production, with billions of cents being produced each year, and in such mass production environments even the smallest slip in machinery alignment, die preparation, or planchet creation could result in extraordinary anomalies, and when only one or two examples of such anomalies survive they become nearly priceless. Now imagine a scenario where a 1989 cent was accidentally struck on a leftover copper planchet from pre-1982, instantly creating a rarity because it would weigh more than the standard 2.5 gram zinc cents. Or picture another scenario where a cent was struck on a dime planchet, leaving the design partially missing and off-centered, or perhaps one was double struck with a rotation between strikes, creating a dramatic doubled image of Lincoln's profile and the reverse memorial, and suddenly you begin to see how error after error can elevate an ordinary penny into the realm of legends. And the key is that collectors value not only rarity but also dramatic visual appeal, because the more noticeable and unusual an error, the more collectors will fight for it at auction. And in the case of a 1989 1-cent valued at $14 million, the belief is that the coin represents either a one-of-a-kind minting blunder or perhaps a coin with layered errors so complex and visually striking that it cannot be replicated, and if such a piece exists in pristine condition, graded by top certification companies such as PCGS or NGC at an extremely high level like MS68 or MS69, its rarity and quality together would justify such an astronomical price tag. And this is not unprecedented in numismatics, since history shows us that other Lincoln cent errors have achieved record-breaking sales, such as the famous 1943 bronze cent which fetched over $1 million and the 1944 steel cent which also crossed into seven figures. And when we imagine a similar but even rarer occurrence happening with a 1989 cent, it is easy to see how the price could climb into the tens of millions, because wealthy collectors and investors with deep pockets are often willing to bid extraordinary sums when a once-in-history piece becomes available. And this is where the story of this coin captures the imagination, because it combines the possibility of human error, the historical shift in coin composition, and the relentless demand from collectors who seek to own something no one else can have. And as we go deeper into the possibilities, we must consider planchet errors where a 1989 cent might have been struck on the wrong metallic disc, striking errors where misalignment or multiple strikes created unusual designs, die errors such as double dies or die clashes that left ghostly impressions, or experimental strikes where the mint may have tested alternative compositions and a few slipped into circulation. And each of these categories represents a doorway into immense value. For instance, a 1989 double die cent could show dramatic doubling on the date or lettering, instantly making it desirable, while an off-center strike showing half of Lincoln's portrait missing would also stand out dramatically, and when collectors find such pieces they guard them like treasure, often passing them down through generations or consigning them to prestigious auctions. And what truly drives up the value into the millions is the combination of extreme rarity, dramatic error, pristine preservation, and historical significance, all of which together can push a coin far beyond what logic might suggest. And while some skeptics might argue that $14 million is an exaggerated figure, history proves that the coin market often defies logic, as coins once thought worthless later become priceless when their uniqueness is revealed. And if a 1989 cent exists with a perfect storm of errors, it is entirely within the realm of possibility that it could reach this value. And the fascinating part is that every single one of us might unknowingly hold such a treasure in a jar of pennies, in an old shoebox, or in change received at a grocery store, which is why the excitement of coin hunting remains alive today, because the possibility of turning a common cent into a multimillion-dollar windfall captures the imagination of millions. And beyond the financial aspect there is the allure of history, because every coin tells a story not only of monetary policy and minting technology but of the people who handled it, the times in which it circulated, and the rare mistakes that turned it from ordinary to extraordinary. And this is why the 1989 1-cent coin is so captivating, because it represents the possibility of perfection hidden inside imperfection, where a mistake transforms a humble cent into a priceless artifact. And when collectors, historians, and dreamers all converge on a story like this, its legend grows, inspiring further hunts and further dreams. And so the tale of the 1989 cent valued at $14 million is not just about money but about possibility, hope, and the thrill of discovery, because each error type, whether it be off-center, double-struck, broad-struck, struck on the wrong planchet, struck with misaligned dies, capped die, die clash, or even struck with experimental metal, carries with it the chance of being unique. And uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value. And while billions of 1989 cents exist in circulation and are utterly common, it only takes one that is different, one that slipped past the mint's careful eyes, to become legendary. And that is why collectors never stop searching, because they know history has already proven that treasures hide in plain sight. And as this story spreads, more people are drawn into the world of numismatics, learning to appreciate the beauty of coins, the art of minting, the history of economies, and the endless thrill of hunting for errors. And ultimately this is why the 1989 1-cent valued at $14 million is such a compelling topic, because it reminds us that the smallest objects can carry the greatest mysteries, and that even something as ordinary as a penny can rewrite our understanding of value, rarity, and chance. And Southwest, as we close this journey, remember to always keep an eye on the change you receive, to look closely at every coin, because you never know when you might stumble upon a once-in-history error that could change your life forever. And if you have enjoyed this in-depth exploration of the legendary 1989 1-cent coin said to be worth $14 million, be sure to stay connected for more fascinating stories from the world of coins, history, and the treasures they hold. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing discoveries waiting just around the corner. Next, 2017 1-cent coin, today's presentation where we explore the incredible world of rare coins, a world where the smallest denomination can sometimes transform into an item worth millions. And in this episode we will be diving deep into the fascinating story of the 2017 1-cent coin. A coin that has been reported to reach valuations as high as $2.6 million, not because it was minted in solid gold or made with exotic materials but because of the rare errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that occurred during its minting process, turning what should have been just another Lincoln cent into an extraordinary treasure. And for anyone watching this channel, it is always exciting to remember that coins with hidden value are still out there in circulation waiting to be found. So let us take a detailed journey into the world of minting in 2017, the Denver Mint's role in producing billions of pennies, the errors that can happen even in such a highly controlled environment, and why collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for specific examples that showcase these anomalies, starting with the basics of coin production, where every design begins as a master hub which is then transferred to dies used to strike blanks into coins, a process that requires absolute precision. And yet, despite the technology and checks in place, even a small misalignment or misfeed can cause mistakes that forever alter the final piece, and it is these mistakes that become the foundation of numismatic rarity. So with the 2017 penny we find a variety of potential error categories, such as double die obverse errors where Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 2017 show a distinct doubling visible to the naked eye or under magnification. making them instantly desirable to collectors because they stand out as obvious mint mistakes. Then there are off-center strikes where the planchet was not seated correctly under the dies and the resulting coin shows a dramatic shift with part of the design missing altogether, which not only looks visually striking but also proves how the minting process can produce unexpected results. Then we must consider clipped planchets where a piece of the metal blank is missing due to a misfeed in the blanking press, creating coins with crescent-shaped cuts that collectors eagerly seek out. And further along we encounter broad strikes and partial collars where the collar die fails to contain the expanding metal during striking, resulting in a coin that is stretched wider than normal and missing its typical rim detail, all of which add character and rarity. But perhaps the most fascinating possibilities come from off-metal errors where a 1-cent design is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination like a dime or foreign coin, producing examples that can be both lightweight and visually distinctive. And such coins are incredibly rare, with auction prices consistently climbing whenever one surfaces, and if such an error occurred in 2017 with the Denver issue, then its value could easily climb into the millions, especially if it combined with other anomalies like doubling or misalignment, making it essentially unique, and uniqueness in the coin world often equates to untold financial worth. Yet the story does not stop at the errors themselves, because another factor influencing value is condition, with coins graded at mint state 65 or higher by agencies such as PCGS or NGC commanding top dollar, as flawless surfaces, brilliant luster, and sharp strike quality prove that the coin has survived without circulation wear, and so a 2017 D penny with a major error in pristine condition would be seen as a once-in-a-lifetime find, the kind of coin that auctions showcase as headline pieces, driving competitive bidding that pushes values into the millions. And when we ask why collectors value such pieces so highly, the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, history, and passion, because coin enthusiasts know that each error is not only a product of the minting process but also a frozen moment in history where human oversight and machine imperfection aligned, and possessing such a coin means holding a tangible piece of that history, something no other person may ever have. And when auction houses present these coins, they highlight not only the physical error but also the story, the provenance, and the excitement of discovery, because in many cases these coins are found by ordinary people who check their pocket change, proving that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight, and that sense of accessibility keeps the coin collecting world alive, fueling the idea that anyone could uncover the next multimillion-dollar piece. So let's imagine for a moment a coin collector who finds a 2017 D penny with a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's face appears doubled and the inscriptions blur with ghostly outlines. Then upon grading, the coin is certified as a unique example in superb condition. Suddenly this coin is no longer just a penny, it becomes a showcase piece for museums, investors, and passionate collectors, and when placed at auction it attracts global attention, with bidders driving the price into the realm of $2.6 million, not because the material value is high but because the rarity and demand converge perfectly. And to fully appreciate this we must consider parallels from history such as the 1955 double die penny, the 1969 S double die obverse, or the 1943 copper penny, which have each reached valuations that shocked the world at the time, proving that small coins with mistakes can break price records. And this historical precedent justifies the belief that the 2017 D penny can command millions, especially as the collector market has only grown more global and competitive with the rise of online auctions and digital bidding platforms, meaning that more eyes, more wallets, and more passion are directed at these treasures than ever before. And the cultural aspect cannot be ignored either, because coins like these ignite fascination in mainstream media, attract attention from investors outside the numismatic world, and even inspire new generations to start looking through their spare change, which in turn sustains the cycle of interest and ensures that these error coins remain cultural icons. And while skeptics may doubt the notion of a $2.6 million penny, when you break down the components, error rarity, flawless preservation, collector demand, historical precedent, and auction dynamics, the valuation becomes entirely plausible, especially when considering that people pay tens of millions for rare stamps, baseball cards, or works of art. So why not for a coin that is both currency and history combined? And ultimately the 2017 D 1-cent coin valued at $2.6 million is not just about metal but about the story it carries, the rarity it represents, and the thrill it inspires. And that is what makes it so valuable, so extraordinary, and so captivating for all of us who continue to explore the world of hidden treasures. So as we wrap up this journey into the mysteries of the 2017 D penny and its multi-million-dollar allure, remember that the next time you receive change at a store or sift through coins in a jar, you might be holding history in your hand, and with patience, knowledge, and a little bit of luck you could uncover the next record-breaking rarity. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep the passion alive, because hidden treasures are out there waiting to be found. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the world of rare coins and the secrets that make them worth big money, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us for more stories that uncover the amazing value behind the most ordinary of objects. Next. 2005 1-cent coin. We dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a journey that takes us deep into the life of a seemingly ordinary piece of change, the 2005 1-cent coin, a coin that millions of people carried in their pockets, used in transactions at gas stations, grocery stores, and diners across the United States, a coin that most would never even think twice about, yet because of certain unique errors, minting mistakes, and anomalies that occurred during its production, this tiny copper-plated zinc disc has been valued by collectors and enthusiasts at an incredible $1,130,000, making it one of the most captivating examples of how error coins can transcend their humble beginnings and become the stuff of legend. And today we are going to explore in great detail why the 2005 1-cent coin can be so valuable, what kinds of errors and mistakes have been reported, how rarity, condition, and collector demand all play roles in driving such extraordinary value, and why this one small piece of metal has captured the attention of the numismatic world. And to fully understand this, we must first take a step back to understand the context of the 1-cent coin itself. For in 1982 the United States Mint transitioned from using nearly pure copper planchets to zinc planchets coated in copper, a change driven by the rising costs of copper, and by 2005 the Lincoln cent had been minted in this copper-plated zinc form for more than 2 decades, meaning the mint had refined its methods, but the sheer volume of coins being produced, in the billions annually, left the door open for mistakes to occur. And when we talk about minting mistakes, we are not just referring to minor scratches or wear from circulation, but to dramatic, unusual, and rare anomalies that escape the mint's quality control and make their way into the public. And these errors can range from planchet errors, where the blank metal disc is incorrect or flawed, to striking errors, where the coin is misaligned or struck multiple times, to die errors, where the engraved steel dies themselves contain mistakes such as doubling or cracks. And when these errors occur on a coin like the 2005 cent, they create unique pieces that collectors value immensely. And to illustrate the types of mistakes that could elevate a 2005 penny into million-dollar territory, let us first consider planchet errors, which are among the most fascinating. For instance, a 2005 cent may have been struck on the wrong planchet entirely, such as a planchet intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, resulting in a coin that is the wrong size, wrong weight, and with incomplete designs, instantly making it a one-of-a-kind rarity. Or perhaps a coin was struck on a leftover pre-1982 copper planchet, making it significantly heavier and rarer. And such errors are so coveted because they represent physical evidence of a production mistake that should never have occurred. And collectors know that these pieces are essentially impossible to replicate. And then we have striking errors, which include double strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and misaligned dies, and each of these can produce stunning visual results, such as Lincoln's portrait appearing twice on the same coin, or his image being pushed far off to the side leaving a blank crescent of planchet exposed. And the more dramatic the error, the higher the value, because collectors love coins that immediately stand out. And when such coins survive in high-grade condition with little to no wear, they become extremely valuable. And next are die errors, perhaps the most famous category, which includes doubled die coins, where elements of the design such as the date, the word liberty, or the motto "I in God We Trust" appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die engraving process. And doubled die coins are legendary in the hobby because they are dramatic, visible, and undeniable. And when they occur in modern issues such as 2005, they attract intense collector interest. And another possibility is die cracks or die clashes, where broken or clashing dies leave strange lines, raised areas, or ghostly impressions of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa, creating coins that look truly bizarre and unique. And then we must consider transitional or experimental errors, as the U.S. Mint sometimes tests alternative alloys or planchet stocks for research purposes. And if any of these experimental strikes were accidentally released into circulation in 2005, they would become numismatic treasures of the highest order. And when all of these possibilities are combined, it is easy to see why a 2005 cent with a major error could be valued at over $1 million. And beyond the technical errors, we must also discuss condition and rarity, because in numismatics rarity drives value. And when only 1 or 2 examples of a particular error exist, collectors will compete fiercely for them. And when such a coin is preserved in pristine condition, graded at MS67, MS68, or higher by a professional service, its value multiplies even further, and this is where the astronomical figure of $1.13 million comes from, for it reflects the combination of extreme rarity, dramatic error, and superb condition. And there are historical precedents for such values, as the 1943 bronze cent and the 1944 steel cent have sold for over $1 million at auction, proving that Lincoln cent errors can reach such levels, and the 2005 cent fits into this tradition as a modern marvel, a coin that slipped past the mint's controls to become a treasure. And what makes this story even more fascinating is the human side, because countless collectors spend hours searching through rolls of pennies from banks, through jars of change stored in closets, or through inherited collections from parents and grandparents, hoping to find that one rare coin. And stories of ordinary people discovering rare cents worth small fortunes inspire others to keep searching, fueling the dream that anyone could stumble upon a $1 million penny. And the 2005 1-cent coin valued at $1.13 million embodies that dream, because it is proof that even in modern times, with advanced minting technology and strict quality controls, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can create treasures. And as we imagine the specific coin or coins that reach this valuation, we can picture perhaps a 2005 cent struck dramatically off-center, with half the design missing, yet in flawless uncirculated condition, or a doubled die cent where the date and lettering appear so dramatically doubled that it is unmistakable, or a transitional error where the coin was struck on the wrong metal, perhaps copper instead of zinc, making it unique. And when such a coin is authenticated, encapsulated, and presented at auction, it becomes the focus of intense bidding wars among collectors, museums, and investors, driving its price into the millions. And beyond value there is symbolism, for the 2005 cent represents the unpredictability of human processes, the way that error and imperfection can produce beauty and rarity, and it reminds us that the ordinary can become extraordinary, that history can be captured in the smallest of objects, and that chance plays a role in everything, even in the creation of money. And for this reason the story of the 2005 cent continues to inspire, not only among seasoned numismatists but among beginners and casual hobbyists who dream of making their own great discovery. And this is why people continue to study error types, learn how to distinguish genuine mistakes from post-mint damage, and eagerly check every penny that passes through their hands, because the next $1 million coin could be waiting in an unsearched roll or forgotten drawer. And so the tale of the 2005 1-cent coin worth $1.13 million is not just about a number or a value but about possibility, history, rarity, and human fascination. And as we conclude this exploration, remember to always pay attention to the coins you encounter, because treasures can hide in plain sight, and a single moment of curiosity could reveal a life-changing discovery. And if you have enjoyed this in-depth journey into the legend of the 2005 1-cent coin and why it has been valued so highly, be sure to stay connected for more amazing stories of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the history that lies quietly in your pocket change. And don't forget to like and subscribe to continue this adventure into the incredible world of numismatics, where the smallest things often hold the greatest secrets. Next, 1987 Lincoln penny. Today's journey into the fascinating world of numismatics, where ordinary coins sometimes transcend their face value to become multi-million-dollar treasures. And in this episode we explore the 1987 1-cent coin, a piece of American change that on the surface seems as ordinary as any other Lincoln cent from the late 20th century. Yet because of rare minting errors, unique mistakes, and anomalies that slipped past quality control, this coin has been reported to command valuations as high as $18 million, an amount so extraordinary that it shocks both collectors and the general public, making us pause to wonder how something minted to be worth a single cent could transform into one of the most desirable treasures in the coin collecting world. And to understand this we must begin by looking at the coin itself. Struck during an era when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies annually, using copper-plated zinc planchets that had replaced the earlier copper alloy cents beginning in 1982, with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, both of which had been familiar to Americans for decades. So in every way the 1987 penny should be ordinary, yet this ordinariness is exactly what makes the discovery of errors so striking. Because out of billions of coins only a tiny handful exhibit mistakes that are dramatic enough to elevate their value beyond comprehension. And when we analyze the possible errors that could have occurred in 1987 we find a wide array of fascinating possibilities, beginning with double die obverse errors where the hubbing process causes inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1987 to appear doubled, often in bold enough fashion that it can be seen without magnification. And these double dies have historically been among the most valuable penny errors, as seen in famous cases like the 1955 double die cent. So if a 1987 penny exists with dramatic doubling in pristine condition, the rarity and desirability would be unmatched. But beyond double dies, there are also off-center strikes, where the planchet fails to align properly within the coining chamber and the dies strike the blank partially, creating coins where Lincoln's portrait is pushed off toward one edge and the remainder of the planchet is blank, with the degree of off-center strike directly influencing desirability, since errors with 50% off-center and complete visible dates often attract the highest premiums. And another type of error is the clipped planchet, where during the punching process part of the blank is cut improperly, resulting in coins with crescent-shaped clips that make them instantly recognizable. Yet even more remarkable are the broad strikes where the retaining collar fails, causing the coin to expand outward into a broad flat disc without a defined rim, a mistake that collectors eagerly seek. And we must also consider die cracks, cuds, and die breaks, where aging or damaged dies leave raised lines or missing portions of design on the coin's surface, all of which add unique character and prove the fallibility of minting equipment. And among the most exciting possibilities are transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes. For example, a 1987 penny struck on a dime planchet, a foreign coin blank, or a leftover bronze planchet from earlier years, errors that are exceptionally rare because of the precise inventory management at the mint. Yet history proves they can occur, and such a combination of wrong metal composition and date would immediately elevate a coin into legendary status. And when these coins surface, they often ignite bidding wars at auctions, as collectors recognize that they are essentially one-of-a-kind artifacts, and one-of-a-kind in numismatics equates to immense financial value, and the magnitude of that value is amplified by condition, for the marketplace rewards not just rarity but also preservation. So if a 1987 penny error were discovered in gem mint state condition with blazing luster and free from circulation marks, certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC at MS67 or higher, its desirability would skyrocket, because collectors know such coins are not only rare in error type but also scarce in top grades. And when such coins enter the marketplace, they are often promoted by auction houses as marquee items, with glossy catalogs and online promotions drawing international attention, and this attention translates into feverish bidding, with wealthy collectors, investors, and museums competing to secure ownership, pushing prices into realms that seem unimaginable for the uninitiated. And that is how we arrive at valuations like $18 million for a single penny, because the dynamics of rarity, condition, provenance, and collector demand converge into a perfect storm. And speaking of provenance, the story of a coin's discovery often enhances its value, as coins found in extraordinary circumstances capture the imagination of the public. So a 1987 penny error pulled from circulation by a sharp-eyed collector, or discovered decades later in an old coin jar, or passed down through generations as a family curiosity, could carry with it a narrative that elevates its desirability and price. And this is not just theoretical, as numismatic history is filled with examples where stories surrounding coins have become as important as the coins themselves, fueling fascination and value. And to place the 1987 penny's valuation into context, we can look at famous precedents like the 1943 bronze cent, which has sold for over $1 million, the 1913 Liberty nickel, which has exceeded several million, and the 1933 double eagle, which broke records at nearly 19 million, proving that the numismatic market has long demonstrated its willingness to reward rarity in history with astronomical sums. So the 1987 penny's multimillion-dollar valuation is not without precedent, and when considered against this backdrop, it becomes clear that its value is not only plausible but inevitable. And beyond technical and financial aspects, there is also a cultural fascination with the idea that something so ordinary could be worth so much, because it challenges our perceptions of value and reminds us that treasure can be hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in a handful of change. And that possibility sustains the coin collecting community, inspiring thousands of people to check their pockets, their drawers, and their piggy banks in the hope of finding the next legendary rarity. And while the majority of 1987 pennies remain ordinary, the allure of the rare errors ensures that excitement never wanes. And so the 1987 penny, valued at $18 million, stands not only as a collectible but as a symbol of possibility, of luck, of the convergence of history and human error. And that is what makes it so captivating. And when one holds such a coin, the weight of its value is not measured in copper and zinc but in the story it tells, the passion it ignites, and the legacy it represents. and ultimately this is why collectors are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for coins like the 1987 1 cent with errors, because they are not just acquiring a piece of metal but a piece of history, a piece of narrative, and a piece of rarity that can never be replicated. And so as we conclude our deep exploration into this fascinating coin, we are reminded once again that value is not always what it appears on the surface, and sometimes the smallest, most overlooked objects can become treasures worth millions, and that is the enduring mystery and magic of the numismatic world. And if you enjoyed this journey into the story of the 1987 penny and the errors that make it one of the most valuable coins ever, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating explorations into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Next, 2008 1 cent coin, we explore one of the most extraordinary stories in modern coin collecting, a journey into the fascinating world of minting errors, rare discoveries, and incredible values hidden in the smallest of everyday objects. Because what if I told you that a simple 1 cent coin from 2008, something you might have passed through your hands countless times without a second thought, could in rare cases be worth an astonishing $2.4 million, and that its value comes not from its face value or even the tiny amount of copper plating that covers its zinc core, but from the remarkable mistakes and anomalies that occurred during its creation at the United States Mint, mistakes so unique and so dramatic that they transformed an ordinary penny into a priceless treasure. And today we are going to dive deep into the reasons why this 2008 1 cent coin has reached such legendary status in numismatic circles, examining the types of errors that can occur, why they are so valuable, how rarity and demand drive up the price, and why collectors dream of finding such a coin in their change, because in the world of coins, error equals opportunity, and a one-of-a-kind mistake can make the difference between a penny that is virtually worthless and one that sells at auction for millions. And to appreciate the full story we first need to understand the context of the 2008 cent, for by this time the Lincoln cent had been produced in its copper-plated zinc form for more than 2 decades following the 1982 composition change, meaning the minting process was relatively stable. But with billions of coins being struck every year, even the best machinery and quality controls could not eliminate every possibility of error, and it is in those small cracks of human oversight and mechanical imperfection that incredible rarities are born. And when we speak of errors on a 2008 cent, we can break them down into categories such as planchet errors, striking errors, die errors, and even transitional or experimental anomalies, each of which can yield results so unusual that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary amounts to own them. So let us begin with planchet errors, because these are some of the most dramatic and valuable. For example, imagine a 2008 cent struck on the wrong planchet entirely, perhaps one meant for a dime, a nickel, or even a foreign coin, resulting in a coin that is smaller, lighter, or with incomplete design spilling off the edge, instantly making it a curiosity of the highest order. Or imagine a cent struck on a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, making it far heavier than normal, and such an anomaly would instantly attract massive interest. And then there are defective planchets where the blank itself contained cracks, laminations, or improper alloy mixes, creating coins with missing layers, odd textures, or dramatic breaks. And when collectors encounter these in mint state condition, they realize they are holding something unique, and uniqueness is the foundation of value. And then we move to striking errors, which are among the most visually dramatic and often the most collectible, because these are the coins that look obviously wrong to even the untrained eye, such as off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait is pushed far to the edge leaving a blank crescent of planchet exposed, or double strikes where the coin is struck once, ejected incorrectly, and struck again with the design overlapping in a bizarre jumble, or broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin expands outward into an oversized disc, or misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse designs do not line up correctly, leaving ghostly shifts in the image, and each of these makes the coin stand out instantly. And the more dramatic the error, the more collectors are willing to pay, especially if the coin is preserved in mint state with no signs of circulation. And then we come to die errors, which are perhaps the most famous because they can create spectacular results such as doubled dies, where parts of the design such as the date, the lettering Liberty, or the motto I in God We Trust appear doubled, producing a coin that looks like it has a shadow image. And these are highly sought after because they are rare, dramatic, and undeniable. And other die errors include die clashes, where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving impressions of one side of the coin visible on the other. Or die cracks, where fractures in the die leave raised lines of metal across the coin, or even die cuds, where parts of the die break away and leave large blobs of metal on the finished coins. And while some of these are minor, the more extreme versions can be unique and command incredible values, and in the case of the 2008 cent valued at $2.4 million, the belief is that it represents one of the rarest and most dramatic combinations of these error types, perhaps a coin struck on the wrong planchet, double struck with rotated dies, and preserved in pristine condition, a once-in-history accident that survived to be discovered, authenticated, and sold. And this leads us to the importance of condition and authentication, because in the world of coin collecting, a coin's grade, as determined by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can make the difference between hundreds of dollars and millions. And when a coin with a spectacular error is preserved in a grade such as MS67 or MS68, nearly flawless with full original luster, it becomes a treasure unlike any other, and if it is the only example known, its rarity drives the price skyward, because wealthy collectors and investors are willing to pay whatever it takes to own something unique, and this is why coins like the 2008 cent can reach multi-million-dollar values. And while some might argue that $2.4 million is an exaggerated figure, history has shown that coins once thought insignificant can later sell for astronomical sums when their rarity and importance are recognized, such as the 1943 bronze cent and the 1944 steel cent, both of which have sold for well over $1 million, and so it is not beyond reason that a 2008 cent with an extraordinary error could sell for multiple millions, especially given the strong demand for modern rarities. And what makes this story even more compelling is the human element, because everyday ordinary people search through rolls of pennies, jars of change, or inherited collections, dreaming of finding a rare treasure, and stories of people discovering error coins worth thousands or millions inspire others to keep searching, and the 2008 cent worth $2.4 million embodies that dream, showing that even in the modern era with advanced technology and strict controls, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can create treasures that change lives. And when we think about this coin, we must also remember that value in numismatics is not just about rarity but about narrative, because collectors are drawn to the stories behind the coins, the accidents of history, the chance mistakes that make them possible, and a 2008 cent with a legendary error tells a story of imperfection, survival, discovery, and triumph, and it symbolizes the way that the smallest objects can hold the greatest secrets, and this is why people continue to study error types, learn how to recognize genuine mint mistakes versus post-mint damage, and check every coin that comes into their possession, because the possibility of finding something extraordinary remains real. And so the 2008 1-cent coin valued at $2.4 million is more than just a number, it is a story of chance, rarity, imperfection, and human curiosity, and it reminds us that treasures can hide in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by anyone with the patience and persistence to look. And as we conclude this exploration, remember that the world of coins is full of mysteries and surprises. And even the humblest penny can become a symbol of history and value beyond imagination. And if you have enjoyed this deep dive into the legend of the 2008 1-cent coin and why it has been valued at such an incredible figure, be sure to stay tuned for more fascinating stories from the world of numismatics. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the chance to learn about the extraordinary treasures that could be hiding right in your pocket change. Last. Today's exciting exploration into the captivating world of coin collecting, where the smallest and most ordinary coins can sometimes transform into life-changing treasures, and in this episode we will take a deep dive into the story of the 2001 1-cent coin from the Denver Mint, a coin that to most people looks completely ordinary with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a coin you would expect to see in your change jar, in your pocket, or in circulation by the billions, yet hidden within this year's production are rare examples with extraordinary minting mistakes and striking errors that have turned a seemingly insignificant penny into a piece worth an astounding $0.637 million, and today we are going to uncover how this is possible, what kinds of errors exist in the 2001 penny, why collectors and investors are willing to pay hundreds of thousands for a coin that was supposed to be worth a single cent, and how these stories keep the thrill of numismatics alive, because every time you look closely at a penny you might just be staring at a fortune. So let us begin by understanding the context of the 2001 penny, minted in Denver during a period when billions of Lincoln cents were being struck from copper-plated zinc planchets. Following the composition change in 1982 when the United States Mint shifted away from nearly solid copper, and the Denver Mint itself has a long history of producing coins in massive numbers with the D mint mark standing as a familiar sign on coins in circulation, and while billions of these 2001 pennies were struck under the watchful eye of advanced machinery and strict quality control measures, the reality of high-speed minting is that errors are inevitable, because when thousands of coins are struck every minute, even a small misalignment, a crack in a die, a feeding mistake, or a planchet problem can lead to anomalies that slip through, and these anomalies are what collectors crave, starting with one of the most famous types of errors, the double die obverse, where parts of the coin design, such as Lincoln's profile, the date 2001, or inscriptions like Liberty or I in God We Trust, appear doubled because the hubbing process misaligns during die creation, producing a coin where the features look like they have ghostly shadows or duplicate outlines. And dramatic examples of this error can sell for tens of thousands or more depending on condition, and when one such example is tied to the 2001 D penny in pristine mint state condition. The rarity and desirability combine to push values into the hundreds of thousands, and then we must consider off-center strikes, where the blank planchet is not properly centered in the striking chamber and the dies only impress part of the design, leaving the rest blank. And collectors love these coins especially when the date is still visible despite the design shift, and highly dramatic off-center errors can command immense premiums. And we must also explore clip planchets, where during the blanking process part of the metal sheet overlaps or is misfed, leading to blanks with crescent-shaped clips or straight edges that look unnatural, and when such a clip planchet is paired with a well-struck design and preserved in uncirculated condition, it too becomes highly valuable. And another category of error involves broad strikes and partial collars, where the retaining collar that shapes the rim of the coin fails, allowing the planchet metal to expand outward, producing unusually wide and flat pennies missing their defined rims, coins which instantly capture the attention of collectors who recognize the rarity of such striking mistakes. And equally fascinating are die breaks, cuds, and cracks, where a portion of the die itself chips away, leaving a raised blob or line of metal on the coin surface. And depending on how dramatic these are, they can drastically increase the desirability of a coin, as they serve as fingerprints of the minting equipment's wear and tear. And even more spectacular are wrong planchet errors, which occur when a Lincoln cent design is struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin. And these wrong planchet strikes are extremely rare but immensely valuable, as they produce underweight coins with unusual coloration and unique traits. And when one of these emerges from the 2001 Denver Mint paired with the correct date and mint mark, its uniqueness makes it essentially a one-of-a-kind rarity that can easily reach six figures or more. And when we consider why collectors and investors are willing to pay up to $637 million for such an error coin, the answer lies in the convergence of rarity, demand, historical precedent, and the sheer allure of owning something so unique, because in numismatics rarity is king, and a coin that exists in perhaps only one or two examples worldwide, especially one with dramatic visible errors, can inspire intense competition at auction, and auction houses thrive on these competitions, often promoting such coins as the centerpiece of their events, showcasing them with glossy images, detailed descriptions, and highlighting their provenance and certification by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC, whose authentication gives confidence to bidders. And once the auction begins, collectors with deep pockets from around the world compete fiercely, driving the price upward until records are set. And while some may think it irrational to pay nearly $637 million for a penny, historical precedents in numismatics prove otherwise, with coins like the 1943 bronze cent, the 1955 double die penny, and the 1913 Liberty nickel showing again and again that when rarity, condition, and collector demand align, prices can exceed imagination. And in this way the 2001 D penny becomes not just a coin but a symbol of possibility, proof that extraordinary treasures can hide in plain sight. And the fascination is only enhanced by the cultural narrative surrounding pennies, because they are the most common coins, often dismissed as worthless. Yet stories like this remind us that even the humblest of coins can carry extraordinary value, which makes people everywhere look twice at their change jars, their pockets, and their piggy banks. And that act of searching sustains the numismatic community, fuels curiosity, and inspires new generations of collectors. Because anyone, anywhere, could unknowingly be holding a small fortune in their hands, and beyond the financial aspect there is also an emotional connection, as owning such a rare coin connects someone to history, to the minting process, and to the broader human story of chance and error. And this intangible connection adds to the mystique and desirability, which further reinforces the high valuations. And when one holds a coin like the 2001 D penny with rare errors, one is not simply holding metal but holding a unique piece of American history that tells the story of imperfection, chance, rarity, and human fascination. And that is why collectors are willing to pay prices like $637 million, because they see not only an investment but a legacy, a chance to own something truly unique that will never be replicated. And so the story of the 2001 penny is not just about copper-plated zinc but about possibility, about hope, and about the thrill of discovery. And as we close this journey, remember that extraordinary value can sometimes be found in the most ordinary places, and that the simple act of paying attention to the details of everyday objects can unlock treasures that change lives. So keep looking, keep learning, and keep collecting, because the next great discovery could be waiting in your pocket. And if you enjoyed this in-depth look at the 2001 1-cent coin and the errors that make it worth such big money, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more explorations into the amazing world of rare coins where history, chance, and fortune meet.